just use this as a way to seg into politics, because I do think that part of what has kind of turned the internet community against Jericho is the fact that he's got some
pretty wacky beliefs. Wacky beliefs.
Yeah, he's been a very COVID has been a sticking point. He did the Sturgis rally that turned into a super spreader event by most scientific parameters. Where do you think, and this is what I was initially leading to, where do you think the comparisons are helpful between politics and professional wrestling?
Well, I would say, getting away from Chris Jericho, I would say that I do think that politics is a lot more performative than people really know. A lot of times when people are saying their positions or coming out and signaling to the crowd, it's not really them even like necessarily sharing what they truly believe or trying to make an argument to convince the other person. I think a lot of people like walk into debates thinking, man, maybe they'll convince the other to do this, or like debates are trying to convince the other person or challenge. I think that type of way people think of debates of trying to convince the other person is really weird. You get what I'm saying? It's not. It's a performance art.
Totally with you. I'm totally with you. This is where people start yelling at me because they think I'm not taking politics seriously enough when I point out, like, hey, look, some of this stuff is very performative.
Extremely.
And it is instructive to understand how the performance art of professional wrestling is done, to understand what it means to walk out, project a certain image, get your point across, rally a crowd, understand how to feed off of them, and then leave on time. Like, these are all things that are done maybe in its purest form in professional wrestling.
The thing is, right? Nobody is going to watch Donald Trump and Joe Biden debate, and Donald Trump's going to be like, that was a good point, Joe. I think I was wrong. I'm going to change my policy now. That's not going to happen. They're not going to, even if a politician gets cornered, they'll just pivot. They'll pivot until their ankles break. They're never going to admit they were wrong, unless it's like a scandal that they think they don't have any other choice, right? They don't, even if their policies are 100% incorrect. Donald Trump says that millions of illegals voted in the last election with zero proof. Never going to admit he's wrong. It definitely if he's challenged during a debate. During the Republican primaries, he said that there was fraud here, fraud there, and that's why he lost certain Republican primaries. Is he ever going to admit he's wrong? Of course not. It's performative. If he's on a stage debating somebody, that isn't him trying to convince the other person. That's him doing a performance, signaling towards the positions and signaling to how bad the other person's position is and how ridiculous they are in an over-the-top manner to try to convince you, the viewer at home, that they are the correct one. Nowhere are they really trying to convince that other person they're actually talking to take on their beliefs.
And I guess that's the thing that frustrates me, is like, that's what we're for. Like, that's what our friends and family are for. That's what, I guess, on some level, some of these Twitch panels are for. You have these conversations with humans to humans, not these avatars. And that's the thing. To me, politicians are exactly that. What I say on my stream, on the podcast, literally anywhere that I have a voice, though, if you want to understand politics, understand that it is a race to do one thing and one thing only. On a predetermined date, get more people into a booth to press your button than the other person can get people into a booth to press their button.
Yep.
That's it. Everything else, the ideas, the messaging, how important it is, what's at stake, that is all in service to that one goal. And people call me cynical.
Well, I mean, it is the truth. I mean, I don't know if they actually, does anybody legitimately believe that Hillary Clinton was ever willing to give Trump the benefit of the doubt on the debate stage? When we have so much at stake, they're going to try to like shake hands and smile and like, I can't wait to see my ideas challenged on the national stage. I can't wait to see these attack ads challenge the fundamental things that I believe to maybe shift my position slightly. There's no one who ever saw an attack ad and was like, you know what? That avenue of attack, pretty legitimate. I think I'm gonna change my policy. Me, Raphael Warnock, who has now been accused of hiding money from Chinese communists and terrorists, is now gonna stop my policy around China and terrorism. That's not gonna happen.
No. And by the way, it would be a dereliction of duty for them to do it. It would be a dereliction of duty from their donors, from their supporters, because the goal is to get elected. Then you do the things. Then you execute. Governing is about your better angels. Politics, elections are about getting elected.
Mhm.
Like that to me is the most dead on thing. But what can you say? And this is where I want to talk to you about your history in and experience in campaigns. But like, how is it ever in anyone's interest, aside from me and you trying to make content, to kind of explain that to people? Because it's certainly not in the interest of the campaigns to say that this is anything other than a life or death decision, and that's why you need to go out on this specific date and press my button, right?
Say that question one more time.
There's no, like, the media in general, mainstream media, has no interest in explaining the things that we're talking about right now to people. Campaigns certainly don't, because that lessens the ability for them to excite.
Well, that's a fucking downer.
Yeah, right. Like, I guess, where does this even fit in? I think we can agree on that, but where does this even fit into the dialogue?
I think that when people analyze politics, I think people should use this as an opportunity, to step back and try to figure this out from like people like us. We're supposed to explain that, look, these people aren't trying to have a polite conversation. They are selling you something. They are selling you their campaign. They are trying to sell you on voting for them. And you need to remember, they're selling you a product here, which is their policies in comparison to their product, which is the other person's policies. And they're going to do everything possible to make you accept that. And accept them. They aren't coming here to have a polite discussion with their political opponents in reality. It's good for national unity that they say that on the debate stage. But when analyzing these situations, you need to remember that these are two people with diametrically opposed political views who are trying to sell their product to you over the other person's product. And that's how they're operating. Not in a conversation to actually change anybody's mind. And the same thing doesn't only apply to presidential debates. It applies to anything you'll see at Politicon. It applies to 99% of discussions you see on Twitch. It applies to discussions on YouTube. It just applies to all of this. Nobody's going to go there and say, damn, you got me there. There was no way when Richard Wolff and Jordan Peterson went head to head, Jordan Peterson was going to be like, well, I guess I'm a communist now at the end of this. Even though Richard Wolff was much more educated on the issues, even if I disagree with him on certain things. Wait, no, I mean Noam Chomsky. He talked to Noam Chomsky. Yeah.
Oh, Noam Chomsky. Yeah. Although Peterson did admit that he was wrong on civil rights to what's his butt, the comedian.
Oh yeah, it wasn't Noam. It was Zizek. It was Slavoj Zizek. Yeah. Sorry, Chad. But say that one more time. I'm sorry. It was just confusing.
No. He God damn it, I can't even remember the show. But even though my friend worked on it, when Jordan Peterson admitted he was wrong about the civil rights legislation.
Oh yeah, I did see that. That was actually super cool seeing that. He was like, "Oh, I guess I'm wrong." But but what got me about that is it's like he's put no thought into it. It was because the slightest pressure possible, he reversed his decision. Yet he's shouting that position to thousands upon thousands of people. That's what got me about that.
Yeah, I mean, Jordan Peterson is writ large is definitely a larger conversation, and I probably don't know enough about him to kind of have a very educated version of it, but certainly there is an explosion compared to when I was growing up of the commentariat class that is fascinating, because on average, I do think that it is more honest than it used to be, because since there's more of us that are all leveraging our opinions for money on some level, the pool of money is thinner. So it's like, it's really cool for us because we can make thousands of dollars, right? Yeah. But we're not making tens of thousands of dollars or hundreds of thousands of dollars like the way it used to be, where there was only maybe 300 people in America that got paid to talk about politics for a living.
Yeah.
So I do think on some level it is more honest, but at the end of the day, everybody is selling something, even if it's ourselves.
Yeah, of course. I mean, for everybody who's watching, I mean, I work in politics. I am trying to sell you my policies. That is what I'm trying to, this is what I'm doing here on Twitch is part of that. Trying to sell you my view of the world and what I want to see the future of this country as. This is all part of that. All part of my brand. Even Hippy Dippy is part of that. This idea that I'm having these people challenge ideas for each other, because I believe that my ideas are going to come out on top in these debates. If I thought that these roundtables were undermining my belief system, then I probably wouldn't be fucking doing them. I am selling you something, and it is my beliefs and what I want to see this world become. Why would I be on Twitch and talking about politics if not to do that?
To make money, like I do.
Well, I also I do like the money. I do like the fact I can pay rent using my Twitch stuff now, which is
money.
Cool.
Money and not having a boss. that's the real sweet deal in your old boy Jerbs' opinion. It's just like, wait a minute, I can just do what I would like to do otherwise, like, but people will pay me for it. This is dope.
I gotta say, it's really weird being able to find financial stability in the middle of recession when I'm like 19. That's a weird feeling, but it's amazing.
Oh my God, man. That was something that for me was a shock when, everything fell to shit. We had, the economy was cosplaying as the Great Depression for a couple months. And I got friends in the real ass media that are losing their job. And as it turns out, Patreon and streaming is like the world's safest job in media. So it was just mind blowing to me. I mean, not only that, it was growing, it was exploding.
Because people were at home. Because I originally thought damn, well, this is probably going to hurt me on streaming because people are going to have less money. But what it meant was more people were at home watching streams. So it actually helped me grow. So it was a complete opposite of the effect I thought it was going to have. Here's another thing that people thought. People thought that once Trump lost the election, that political Twitch would just fall through. My expansion on political Twitch, half of it has been post-election. And it's been because it went to these protests or the commentary or because Trump is still a presence in politics. And I think that I don't think the performative nature of people like Josh Hawley or Matt Gaetz and people like that, those types of characters, are going to go away once Trump's no longer president. Trump isn't just going to disappear once he's no longer president. He's still going to have a certain amount of impact on politics. Now, I would say with all of him being removed from all these social media companies, from being able to access them, that maybe that impact will be lesser now, but it's still going to be there. I didn't understand this idea that we were reaching a political Twitch recession. We were on a cliff.
Yeah, I'm with you, and I think even without Trump, this is going to be a very compelling phase in politics, mostly because I think we are at a point now of tremendous reshuffling.
Yeah.
Writ large, because we're watching the Republican Party split in half and figure out exactly who they are and who they're going to run.
Did you see the polling data on that? On how 70% still stick by Trump, which sounds like a lot, but that's down from 88% 2 months ago.
Oh God, no, that's I mean, and I would expect it to continue to go down, because right now, even now, when there is, I think, a thought process for some Republicans of well, look, I like Trump. I voted for Trump. I liked him better than Biden. And I think that there was some fuckery in the election and he got hosed. But the longer he's out of power, look, here's something else, another maxim of mine. All power in politics is future power. Mm-hmm. It's the power that exists in the future. Past power doesn't mean shit. True. The thing you did yesterday is garbage. Yep. The thing that you could do a year and a half from now is fetishized and worshipped, right? And Trump might be fresh out of tomorrow's, at which point we're going to see that fall. Now, at the same time, where Trump's lane is, which is a more working class Republican Party, is sitting there. That's why Josh Hawley and Ted Cruz embarrassed themselves before that Capitol riot. Yeah. But at the same time, now there's this other,
you hear what Mitt Romney did?
Whatever they call the never Trumps. And on the other side, look, the one thing that united the Democrats is Trump, and he's probably gone. So guess what? It's open season now between the progressives and the liberals.
I mean, did you see what Mitt Romney did to Ted Cruz when the riot was going on?
I saw something vaguely.
Mitt Romney got in his face and was like, "This is your fucking fault."
Yeah.
And it was.
Oh no, I remember that. Yeah, because I was joking about Mitt Romney, Mormon cursing him out, like what the frig, Ted? You're a real monkey's uncle.
Yeah, I can see something like that going on. I will say I was at the Capitol protests, the Capitol
Yeah.
riot.
Yes, I wanted to talk to you about that because you were also in Georgia, where I was also in Georgia. I was covering it based in
Yep.
Atlanta. I think you were a couple hours away, but then I did not go to DC to my own chagrin, and you were there.
Yep.
What was that like?
So I've gone so far to the Million MAGA March, which became the 20,000 MAGA March. I've been to the DC protest with Georgia, and in 6 days I'm going to be in DC for inauguration as well.
So you are defying the local order to go to DC.
I am wearing my Biden hoodie to face down the outside agitators who have come into our community. These white people in the red hats who burn the property of black churches and rush us in the night. So that I am choosing to walk in my community in a hoodie of different political opinion than them and get spit at and called a traitor and threatened with execution and called the F slur and watched them assault media. So yeah, that's man, it was terrible, man. When I was there, it was absolutely awful.
That's crazy because I've covered a couple Trump rallies. I have not covered anything like that,
like sedition.
Well, I mean, Jesus Christ, right? Like, there's not a whole lot of those going around in general, but
yeah.
But any kind of outside, like a big march or event like that. But in general, covering the Trump rallies, the way that I have always kind of described the crowd was usually at the rallies, there's like about the majority of the crowd is like 60 to 70% just like people that are blissed out. They are so fucking excited to see Donald Trump, and they've never seen any president before, and they've never voted before, but they are there and they are just like seeing their favorite band that they've only listened to all the albums and now they get to see them live. And then there's like 20% of people that are like really angry, and then there's like the weird ones are like that last little sliver that are like taking pictures of the media and just kind of like looking with like grim, faces. And I would imagine that I guess the energy at that event had to just be fucking black, sour.
It was not good. I mean, I would walk down the street. It would be someone throw communists at me. I remember just walking by one person. They just looked at me, just laughed in my face, and just walked off. I didn't even say anything to them. Somebody walked up to me and just spit at me. Somebody came up to me with a sign. It was like, read it very carefully and take a picture to remember. And it was basically a sign saying like, the traitors will be executed, to put it lightly. There was somebody else who was like, if we went to one of your rallies, you wouldn't be not beating us up. And I was like, Joe Biden doesn't even have rallies. What do you fucking mean?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So the fucking back and forth with these people were absolutely dreadful. And somebody started throwing slurs at me. I guess they just thought me with long hair and just threw the F slur at me because, whatever. And then I eventually saw what the weirdest interaction for me that I saw firsthand, even though there was like, flashbangs and tear gas and all this other stuff, was I was near the media because I had to fall back after a flashbang was thrown. And while I was there, the media are like trying to cover the shit, right? And the one guy's trying to record it, and there's a guy without a mask in front of them. By the way, like 60 to 70% of these people didn't have masks. Was flying a flag back and forth, right, in front of the camera, trying to stop them from getting a good picture. And then when the reporter just said the word riot, the guy got so fucking angry, got in his face, started yelling at him. Somebody else came by, called me and them, because since I was in a Biden shirt, I guess I was also media or something, the F slur. And then people started pelting them with objects as a crowd formed and rushed them, and then proceeded to smash all their media equipment.
I saw a clip, which I'm presuming is this event, and that was WTOP's cameras getting just trashed by the supporters, which is just so out of line.
Extremely out of line. It was. And and once the media fled, I was the only one there. And after seeing what they just did to the media, I decided at that point it was time for me to go the fuck home. I think it was time for me to get out of there.
Yeah, that's one of those things that in my head, as soon as like I was flying back from Atlanta, when all of it happened, and the first thing was like, oh God, as a journalist, all I want to do is be where the things happen. Um, but at the same time, it's like, well, you never know. You never know what happens, man. When a crowd is wild like that, when you lose the common humanity, dangerous shit happens. And we saw that. I mean, 2 of the supporters died just in the process of
oh my gosh.
before the one that was shot, you know?
Yeah, I mean, the thing was that the amount of stuff that provokes violence is not much. Just someone merely saying the fact that it was a riot was enough for them to have their equipment smashed and get pelted, right? The fact that I was in a Biden hoodie. The thing is, I was accused of treason by multiple people, and I was like, what did I do that was treasonous? And they said, did you vote for Biden? I said, yeah, that's treason. Voting for the people that they don't want to be in office, that is treason. In a democracy, voting for the other party is treason. It's fucking ridiculous.
Yeah, that's not exactly clear thinking.
I don't think so. And they're saying this you're calling me a traitor for voting for the other person in democracy, as people with Confederate flags are busting down the windows of the Capitol building and rushing it. And I'm the traitor. They're going in with zip ties and chanting "Hang Mike Pence" because they lost an election. And I'm the traitor for voting in the other direction.
Well, I mean, obviously, yeah, that's fairly ridiculous. That is a ridiculous concept.
150 years late on the flag, too. I mean, maybe if it was 150 years ago, the flag flying over DC would have meant something.
Well, also, it's like, where are we at? I mean, that just seems like, such a tired, try-hard bullshit symbol.
Yeah,
anyway.
I mean, the thing is, they just can't pick winners. First, it's the Confederacy. Now it's fucking Trump. Can't they just pick a winner every once in a while?
Well, I mean, that's man. There's so much that kind of goes into where we are right now, including the idea that, like, I think that if COVID didn't hit, Trump would have had a very good shot to win.
I think he would have had a much better shot. But the thing is, COVID is literally the perfect storm for a person like Trump. He's an isolationist, right? Who is not going to work with the international community on something like this. He pulls out of the WHO. He pulls out of international agreements like the Paris Accords. He's definitely not going to participate in the things like the COVAX program, which is important to show American leadership, right? He is somebody who is really big on disinformation. So something that, like, where the conspiracy theorists who are like, oh, the Black Hawk helicopters are spreading bullshit about it, is something he's going to easily pick up on. He's someone who can't keep his mouth shut and tweets immediately when he thinks something. So if he thinks something about bleach or, oh, it's going to go over with the summer, he'll just say it since he goes off the script. Something like this where you need to have consistent messaging, he's bad for. He doesn't believe in experts, right? So he's not going to believe what experts really tell him. He's just going to do whatever the fuck he wants. He has been somebody who's constantly asked to...
Especially with COVID, where the experts were, the truth was evolving, right? Yeah. Like, if you read all the behind the scenes stuff, there are things that people that we know now, like Dr. Birx and Dr. Fauci and other people in there that were that had internal conversations that were in hindsight wrong. It doesn't make them bad. It makes this the process of science, right? Yeah. Science is great with shit that happened 2 years ago. Mm-hmm. Like, scientists, when things are evolving, are just kind of
nobody goes up to their fucking teacher from like 5th grade. You told me Pluto was a planet, you dumb fuck. What the fuck? You lied to me. Like, nobody does that. Our range of knowledge evolved.
For me, the biggest thing that was a perfect storm for him was he's very disorganized. If there's one thing we learned in the previous 3.5 years or 3 years, it's that dude wears his disorganization on his sleeve.
Yep.
Like, it is bull in a china shop, and we're happy because we think the china shop has too many things that people find too precious. So we don't care if he breaks this, that, or the other, because we're too focused on it. And like, this is the exact wrong thing to not be organized with, right? When you are organizing with 50 states that many of them are the size of most European countries, that we have open borders amongst our 50 states, so we can't even isolate by those areas. Like, you need to have buy-in from everybody. You need to have direct communication and one voice via the governors, and that certainly was not going to happen under Trump.
Yeah, and the thing that is for me as a foreign policy guy, right?
Yeah.
He was the worst possible person for a situation like this. Not only for preventing this, because he doesn't have a good relationship with the countries we need to participate with and work with, and he's pulling out of international institutions that are not going to go away and are going to be there and are the only current format we have for dealing with situations like this. And us by leaving, all we're doing is leaving more negotiating power for like the Chinese government, the Russian government, governments that are going to push towards more illiberal practices when dealing with these situations, that are going to push away responsibility. Um, he's also going to be the worst person possible for trying to prepare for a future outbreak and learning the lessons of this. Because part of the lessons are going to be reformation of the WHO. We're going to need to make it so that the inspections that we do, the voluntary inspections, are being done in nations like China. Because the voluntary inspections to make sure that people have decent early detection software and early detection methods, China didn't ever sign up to that. They didn't have those voluntary inspections. They didn't want to open themselves up.
I mean, that I think is a larger conversation.
That is a larger conversation.
There is a China problem, and I think that they're like the WHO was not helpful as we are. I think 1 year somebody sent me the 1 year old WHO tweet that there is no proof that there's human to human spread of coronavirus in Wuhan. There is a China problem here that I don't know exactly what the right way to solve is.
Well, the thing is, this is a general like world problem when it comes to specifically things like COVAX and the WHO, because we would need to countries feel like if they report early detection that they're going to get penalized because they saw what happened with Ebola, that these countries when this was found out that these countries had Ebola and the WHO came out and said, hey, don't do travel restrictions, that's not really necessary for this, all the countries got caught up in the hype, did travel restrictions, and that actually made it more difficult for the resources the countries involved and reported that they had the epidemic spreading in their countries to get resources to deal with the issue. And so when you report this early on, it can cause negative consequences for you. So one of the things that I think should happen is that there need to be incentives put in place to certify to nations that if they do this early detection, if they invest in early detection systems and also tell the world that, hey, we have this thing going on, the world will have their back and be able to assist them in this. By not having that guarantee, they could have incentives to just pretend nothing's going on and cover it up like China did.
But how do you do that for China? I buy that with almost every other nation, but China has very little incentive to do it when they can just invest heavily in the WHO and have them kind of parrot their talking points.
I actually don't know the exact incentives that would need to be put in place. I think it would need to be guarantees for like international assistance to these nations that report epidemics and pandemics starting with.
I mean, again, yeah, I just think when you're dealing with an economic megapower like China, and by the way, apparently there are some economic estimations that say, in part because of the shutdown that we have had to survive COVID this year, that China could overtake us as an economy by like 2028, which I'm not an economist, so I don't know whether or not that's legit or not. But I do know that China is an economic powerhouse, and you know, this isn't like a country that's dependent on our aid. They're dependent on us as a trading partner, but I don't know. I mean, like the China stuff fascinates me because I am not a fan of their government, and I think that there are major like generational problems happening there, but I don't know what we can do about it. Like, I don't know what is in our purview.
So, I would say that this policy would, again, only 100 countries have even gone forward on the voluntary early detection monitoring by independent groups. And a lot of them, the vast majority of them don't pass what the WHO would see as sufficient early detection. So this is not just something that would help with China. This is something that would help generally. So even if this wasn't true for China, this would help on a global scale to deal if this happened in Brazil.
I agree with you on that.
So when it comes to
China,
when it comes to China specifically, it's going to be more it's going to be more difficult due to the authoritarian nation of the government. And after seeing how they dealt with this And here's another thing that actually makes it different: that local officials are not really incentivized to report problems, because if they report problems, who does that fall in the face on?
Them. Yeah, they are in a system and a society where passing up bad news to the boss is very bad for you, and there's no release valve in a free press.
Now, you could say that in our society, that's true too. Like if the governor says, the economy's not doing too good, and telling everybody that, or a certain county tells that, there's other it's to a different. I would say it's to a different extent. Or would you agree with that sentiment?
No, I think that the difference is here. Yes, you are incentivized not to tell the boss bad news, specifically in government, and you want to protect yourself and you want to protect your system. Also, you're one tweet away from having your career end, and ultimately, you are living at the mercy of a free and open information system. That, even though obviously we freak out at where that is hemmed in, it exists. And that is something for which, a whistleblower culture is a tremendous asset.
Not to mention,
it does not exist there.
We have, I will say that we have, as a country, punished whistleblowers before, but we do have mechanisms for whistleblowing. And a great example for this specific case, though, is that there were doctors early on that was looking at this and saying, this looks a lot like SARS. This isn't good. And they just said this on a private WeChat group that was leaked. And then those doctors, their houses were raided, they're arrested, they were interrogated, and this would go on to kill over 1 million people, this disease. And the people who actually tried to speak out and like show what was going on in Wuhan, their houses were raided. And accused of spreading disinformation, when the Chinese Communist government, when it's already known that they misreported early COVID data, there's already been revealed multiple times that they were lying about early numbers, and they were covering this all up by the raiding of these people's homes and arresting them and bullying people into staying silent. And the time that the people of Wuhan could have had to prepare early on would have been valuable. Now I will say, I want to be clear that I think the vast majority of reasons why America did not do well when adapting with coronavirus isn't at the feet of China, because I don't think if Trump had that extra time that would have come with them being more open, he would have prepared properly anyway.
Yeah, that to me is something that I've had a hard time turning over in my head, because obviously you can't prove a negative, right? I don't know. I think we could have absolutely done better. I think the greater shame is that we have not done better during this winter season, right? Like we all knew this was coming back, right? And we recorded a 4,000 death day yesterday, double what it was during the worst that we saw during the winter. But at the same time, I think, as we've seen around the world, this is a pernicious plague. Like there are elements to this that are almost insidiously dialed in to kill people in a culture that wants to gather with each other by human instinct.
So I hate to push off of this, but I know you wanted to ask me about my campaign stuff, right?
Well, yeah. No, yeah. I mean, I mostly just wanted to bullshit with you.
Wanted to bullshit with me, but I know that was one thing you specifically brought up, so I wanted to make sure that we got to
how'd
it
you
at
get
some point.
How'd you get into politics in general?
How to get into politics in general?
Yeah, like the campaign side.
The campaign side, not like just why I'm interested in politics. Okay, so originally, I was getting more and more interested in politics. I wanted to get involved in politics, and when I was in high school, I saw there was 2 opportunities for me. The first big opportunity was that I signed up for the page program, and I got to work in the Maryland General Assembly as a page when I was in high school. And I went there, I worked as a page, and I made contacts with state senators. My state senator is actually the former ambassador to Romania. I made contacts with my state delegates. I worked there, and I had a lot of interesting interactions on the House of while I was working in the Senate. And I was able to build contacts, learn a lot, and get a deeper interest in politics. Shortly after that, I went to the University of Maryland and studied international relations while I was still in high school through this kind of student program where in high school you can go to college, and I was able to get into the international relations one at the University of Maryland. And soon
Nice.
after that was the Gravel campaign. You're familiar with the Gravel campaign?
I am. Yeah, that's where I was going to go next. So I'm glad you got there.
So after both of these things, the Gravel campaign was just throwing out Google Docs everywhere, like, "Hey, we're just looking for people if you're interested to do state campaign stuff." And so I sent my stuff in. I didn't even know what a cover letter was, so when they asked for one, I was like, "Oh fuck, I'm fucked." So I just sent in what I could, and I was given the role of deputy state director, which blew me away. And it was actually
or Maryland. So you're based in Maryland.
Yes, I'm based in Maryland. I was deputy state director for the state of Maryland. I was given that role, and after a week, I was actually made state director. I was the person who was most suited for the job, and the state director wasn't, and so I was. I don't really want to get into specifics, but I was made state director.
So let me pause you right there, just because I want to illustrate for people. When it comes to campaigns, people often, I mean, especially because you have so much invested in the campaign, in the candidate and the issues, people get very, including media jackoffs like me, get very, very, very dialed in on mistakes that are made or money that's misspent or things that aren't done. And I always try to remind people, like, a campaign is a startup that is spun up very fast.
Yes.
With the vast majority of the people that are doing the work are unpaid, and they're literally just there for the love of the game and their belief in the issues. There's a few people that are paid, but for you just wanted to join the circus, and then 2 days later you're on the flying trapeze.
I'm on the flying trapeze, and after a week later, I was made state director. And so I, as an 18-year-old, still in high school, I was now a state director of a presidential campaign.
That's insane.
Which I mean, just saying it now, I'm not saying I was. Now people will say, like, "Dylan, that was just a Gravel." Yeah, obviously, I wasn't fucking managing Joe Biden's state campaign in Maryland, obviously. But I still think that it was still baffling to me that the fact that I could say that was, like, to me, an accomplishment, right?
I remember when I was covering the 2015 RNC, or the 2016 RNC, when Trump won, and it was this like super weird mood. They're like, because most of the people there were like old school Republicans that were there for, like, they were attending a funeral. They were like, all right, Hillary's gonna wax us, blah 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 blah. But you always do the Trump people, because they were the only ones partying. They were the only. You go to these like bars and everything, they're the only ones buying drinks or whatever. So I'm up trying to get around. I'm talking to this dude, and he's like, yeah. And I'm like, all right, I know you're working on the Trump campaign. I'm like, oh, what do you do? And I can't remember exactly what it was, but I think it was, he ran digital for Virginia, right? And this is a presidential campaign. And I'm like, oh, that's cool, man. How'd you get that gig? And he's like, oh, I started a fan page on Facebook.
Yeah.
And then they called me.
It can be that easy. It really can.
Digital for Virginia.
Yeah, I mean, think about it, right? So the only experience I had was I worked in the Maryland General Assembly. I was president of my school's Model UN, I guess, and I studied international relations at the University of Maryland for 1 semester because of the program.
Wild.
And that made me deputy regional director. And so, and a week later, I was made state director because the state director at the time did not have the proper tools to do it, and I did a little cutthroat bullshit. I won't elaborate more. Anyway,
a little inter campaign scuffle.
A little shimmy here, a little shimmy there. All right. Anyway, so I was state director, and so at that point, I'm like, well, fuck, I'm state director of presidential campaign. I gotta make a staff. How the fuck do I make a staff? I've never done shit like this before. I've never. Because I can't just call up my list of contacts.
Are you paid?
I'm not paid. I was not paid a dime for my work at the Gravel campaign. I couldn't offer anyone anything.
You were a volunteer state director for and what? This was in what?
Maryland.
2 years ago? 3 years ago?
Yeah, it was about 2 years ago now.
2 years ago, right?
Yep.
And so the big move at that point is Gravel trying to qualify for the debates, right?
Yes.
Was that the big push?
That was the big push, which we eventually did get to 65,000, but then they were like, well, no, that's not exactly. And then Bloomberg, it was changed for Bloomberg, but that's a whole other fucking thing.
That's DNC fuckery. But
yeah. But so I was state director, and I'm like, I don't have any contacts, but I knew one person. Now, okay. So when I was in the Maryland General Assembly, I talked to one guy who said he knew a guy who could get me in contact with people. And that was it. And so I had that phone number on my phone. I called this guy as a Hail Mary, like, hello, person who knows people. Do you know anybody who would like to work on a presidential campaign state staff for no money whatsoever during the school year? And he was like, yeah, I'll call a few people. And I was able to get like a head of media, a head of research, a deputy state director to replace my old one. My deputy state director is actually now the president of a local Democratic club, and we're fucking best friends in the world, man. I love him. His name's Jake Burdett, wonderful fellow. The person who got me in contact with all these people is now actually running for delegate. His name's Richard Elliott. He's also a wonderful person. He's running for delegate in my state, and I hope he wins. I hope to help him a little bit. And actually, remember that name Richard Elliott too, because that's gonna come into fact. That's gonna come into play later.
On the rise.
That's gonna come into play later in the story. So
okay.
So I then managed this campaign, and in my opinion, I think I ran the best state campaign out of the entire operation, because I gave everybody clear roles, and I made sure that the head of media was making videos criticizing other people and talking about the benefits of Joe Biden's. I mean, I'm not Joe Biden's, of certain Gravel stuff, and why he should be on the debate stage. But here's another thing I did. I made sure media and messaging and research did research on my own governor, who isn't running. Did research on the history of Donald Trump and his work and stuff during this primary. And people will be like, well, why would you do that? And the idea in my mind is I was trying to connect our state campaign to local issues to show how connected our activists and our organization were to our community and wanting to do this on a local level. And because since we knew we weren't trying to run this to win, then we are doing this to bring attention to issues. So why, if that's the moral of the campaign, then let's bring attention to some local issues, since we have the ability to as a local state campaign. So we brought attention to certain money that Larry Hogan was taking from toll road companies, brought attention to certain anti-democratic First Amendment violations, executive orders that the governor passed. We brought attention to certain local worker co-ops being brought down and closed down in local communities. We brought attention to a lot of issues locally, and I got in contact with a lot of people locally through that. And so we go through the whole ringer. We get to the 65,000. We also were one of the few that actually made media for the main account to be posted, and we got the main account to actually shout out our local issues. We bullied them into doing it, including the worker co-op and them posting articles about what was going on. And I got to go into meetings and stuff, and everybody was also like super surprised, like, hey, who are you? Hi, I'm Dylan, I'm 18. And then they fucking never talked to me again because they just thought I was some fucking dumb kid. Fuck them though. So because now I have no, I don't want to get into specifics, but anyway.
Well, so, I mean, look, that's you know, that seems like a pretty backbiting world at times, and everybody wants to protect their spots. So I can understand that there's a little bit of hesitation there. In general, though, I think that's a very, very astute way of looking at it, because I think if you're a candidate, like, you know, at the point that you join in, Gravel and Yang were not entirely out of each other's orbits. Like, and Yang succeeded where Gravel did not. Yeah. Because Yang realized that if you're going to go from zero to something, it's got to be on the back of an issue.
And also,
no one knows who the fuck you are.
There's one other thing, though.
Issue.
Gravel also was an older man who could not campaign. It was a porch campaign. So that was also something that was, of course, impeding our efforts. And trying to explain this. We tried to do in-person canvassing, but I was against the idea the entire time. We tried to do phone banking, and that we were encouraged to do. I was against both of these ideas the entire time, because there is no way in hell we are going to explain to somebody over the phone or knocking on the door that, hey, we're trying to get donations. That's actually what we're doing here. We're not asking for your vote, really. Or maybe just say it while you're to your pollster if you see that you can't do that. So the only thing this could be communicated correctly on was in the internet, and investing all that time on internet production. We did try a canvassing thing in our community. It failed miserably. We did try phone banking. It didn't work. And I was against it the entire time. But I think that fact that we concentrated on, well, instead of wasting resources on that, eventually, I basically just told my staff to stop doing it. We invested resources on these local issues and bringing attention to these local issues, which I'm super proud of.
And that was online, right? That's how you get attention.
Yeah, we did it online. We did it online. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did a few in-person meetings, and the main one would be I went to the worker co-op meeting they were having on how to stop it from being shut down and stuff like that. So I did try to do some in-person stuff, but it was after we already did the stuff online. So after the campaign all kind of like goes down, right? Eventually I'm actually promoted again to deputy regional director, which means I was about managing 1/3 of the country's campaign.
Nice. So what was your region?
Basically the East Coast.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So,
which is, by the way, 50% of the population of the
yes,
of America. Yeah,
correct. There was the East Coast, there was the middle of the country, and then there was the West Coast, basically, if I remember correctly.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. So after that, but basically managing that was basically managing phone banking operations, which again I disagreed with, but it was a job. It was shit. It was a shit gig, but I did it anyway. After that, the whole operation kind of shuts down. We also made some beautiful graphics as a local campaign. I want to see if I can find some. Actually, I can send you if you're interested in seeing a few.
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah, put it in the chat and I'll throw it up.
Okay, 1 second. Mike Gravel, Maryland. There we go. Oh, we also did some local endorsements too. Actually, we ended up endorsing some people for like Baltimore City Council, which was pretty cool.
Oh, nice. Now, is that stuff that you go to people with, or they're coming to you with?
Until Baltimore.
Is that stuff they say to them? Oh, I actually went to them for it.
Because are you going to them and say Mike Gravel would like to endorse you?
I went to them. I said the thing is, Mike Gravel didn't want to endorse them. We as a staff endorsed them. We were very specific. We wanted to. We worked very independent of the main thing. We became our own little organization, to be completely honest.
Yeah.
I'll actually you can't, if I play this on screen and share screens on Discord, would you be able to watch it?
Should be. Yeah.
Okay, cool. I just wanted to make sure.
If you share screens. Yeah.
So this was a video we produced, and not only did we produce this video, 1 second. We ended up, and then I'll show you a graphic because this is just a video, but I'll show you a graphic right after because the graphic work was really good. We got the Gravel Institute main page to post this.
Nice.
Which was cool to get the main page to call out our Republican governor, right? 1 second. Let's play this. Cool. Let me just share screens quick. Give me a moment. Okay. Tell me if you can see it.
Yeah, we can see it.
Okay. 1 second. Now it won't load. Okay, 1 second. There we go.
The signs outside the Barclay School suggest the clock is ticking down until Baltimore Public Schools will lose more than $11 million, $61,000 per school, or $4,600 per classroom.
I can tell you in the week that I spent walking around Baltimore City and probably talking to more than 1,000 people, not a single person mentioned GCEI or funding formulas. They talked about we need rec centers and we need jobs.
He said folks were asking for resources such as jobs and recreation centers. Releasing the GCI money does exactly that, Governor Hogan.
To have a politician that wants to say, I'm gonna potentially cost the taxpayers hundreds of millions of dollars so I can extend my own job, it's outrageous. Pandering to special interest groups.
Numerous teams submitted project concepts and solution ideas, and our open, innovative, and collaborative approach allowed many private sector experts to use their talents and creativity to develop forward-thinking, outside-the-box solutions.
And of course, local leaders in Montgomery County are already opposed because of there's just no way to do toll lanes, for instance, on the Capital Beltway in the Maryland suburbs without taking property around places like Silver Spring.
You shouldn't have to obsess over or argue constantly about angry and divisive politics.
I mean, this seems to be like the most pro-criminal group of legislators I've ever seen.
You should be able to have confidence in the character and competence of the people you elect to office, regardless of their party affiliation.
The Maryland 2018 governor's race. The Hogan campaign releasing this anti-jealous ad criticizing his platform hours after the primary result.
you should be able to trust that we'll do our best for you to solve our problems.
So it wasn't the most high quality stuff because again we had an unpaid staff, but the idea that we were even bringing attention to these issues, period, was the idea. The fact we would get them to even repost this video, we had to kind of put together a short period of time.
No. That's, I mean, and also it's like, I think very, very smart to have if you are trying to push something, you have to go, if you're introducing a concept, you have to go with something that people know, right? You have to attack somebody like Larry Hogan to get your message across. Exactly.
And let's see if I can find a graphic on Larry Hogan that we actually put to, here it is. So we would put together stuff like this. Here's a graphic I can show you quick. And then I'll stop sharing screens. And we had somebody who was a really good digital person who put together graphics that I think look really good for the campaign. And this again was done by unpaid staff, and I was very proud of stuff like this.
All right, here we go. Free speech not under Hogan's anti-BDS executive order restricting the voice of the contractors. That's a violation of the First Amendment. Gravel 2020. He has a canned ham for a face now, doesn't he? Larry Hogan, or maybe not even a canned ham.
He has a very the way he carries himself is very interesting. I really like the moment where he's like, I hate these divisive politics in the one video, and it cuts right over to them. These are pro-criminal legislatures.
Yeah, right.
It's really
he
good.
is somebody that has some people are circling his name for 2024 as somebody who's
God. I really fucking hope not. He's not that great. But break it down for me as a politician, as you know, not his positions, but as somebody who either can get elected or can't get elected. Is he a capable politician, a campaigner? Because I'm not super familiar. Oh, he is very. The fact that he was able to get elected in this state against Democrats twice is shocking to me. That he's being able to sell himself as a moderate when he's pushing for things like mandatory minimums, taking money from the toll road industry, attacking the First Amendment. He is really good at selling himself and tricking people into thinking he's a moderate conservative with his purple wave bullshit on how he makes coalitions. So he's a really effective politician. He's just has terrible policies.
Sure. Do you think he'll be a force in the Republican primary as somebody who's watching far closer?
It's hard to say. In Maryland, obviously he'll be at one moment. Yes.
Well, we will be right back with Dylan Burns as soon as he gets back. This shit I love, man. I love talking about it because Larry Hogan is somebody. In fact, in the politics podcast that's coming out this morning, we talk with Bill Scher, a writer for Politico magazine, and Larry Hogan is one of the guys mentioned in his far too early 2024 preview. Larry Hogan is somebody that he's done the kind of hokey pokey with Trump. He has supported him at times over COVID and been very critical of Trump at times during COVID. So he would probably be in spoiler alert for the PX3 Extra that came out today. But we've now sussed out, since Trump, we're going to have to eliminate Trump from a dominant form of our political lexicon. So now we can't say MAGA or never Trump, which has kind of a common way to describe stuff. Welcome back.
My cat.
I was just saying that here on the podcast, we have now tried to redefine the lanes, since MAGA and never Trump are kind of possibly going to be something that won't have their dominant, linchpin with Trump anymore. That now we're kind of separating into, and I offered this on my Patreon podcast today, either ye old Republicans or yeehaw Republicans.
Ye old or yeehaw.
The new pathways. And I would say Hogan would fall into ye old, as opposed to yeehaw.
I would say that when it comes to Hogan, it's hard to say because ye old. I think he'd do really well, and I think he'd do really well with the general American populace. Sadly, the problem is I don't know if the Republican base would like him. He's the type of thing where you know how. Like, me as a progressive, I get angry when we're like, do we really have to sell this hardcore? This guy feels like a blue dog Democrat to me. Do we really want to use this Democrat as the person we're going to run here?
Yeah.
But then, like, they might play better with conservative, like, kind of center-right people, right? And centrists. That's, I feel, how they're going to feel. The Republican Party's base are going to feel if Hogan is running. They're going to be like, really? This is our guy? He's not even a real Republican. He backed off of Trump. He didn't support Trump. He said that Trump should be removed from office late in his term. He did. Larry Hogan recently, he said that. So that's going to hurt him bad.
That is something that might help him get through the primaries, right? And that's going to be the curious thing on the Republican side over the next 4 years is to see exactly how much that shakes out. And exactly, like, I don't really trust any of the Republican polling until like 2 or 3 months from now. Like, as soon as the adrenaline dies down of like, all Republicans have the phantom limb thing of, got to defend the president because that's all they've done over the past 5 years or 4 years as people kind of got on board with Trump after that primaries. Like, I'm curious to see how long the Capitol riot stays in people's minds and how much even beyond that the idea of a super insurgent fuck it, let's break shit Republican, whether or not that even subconsciously in people's mind is like, well, we kind of just saw where that led. And it led to a loss, losing the Senate, and the Capitol being defiled.
It's hard for me to think that in the next 4 years, the base of the Republican Party is going to shift so much away from Trump that Larry Hogan calling for him to be removed from office is not going to be something that could be thrown at him by like a Josh Hawley on stage.
I think it will. I think it
will. I think it'll hurt him bad.
That's a plus or a minus.
I think it's going to be a minus. I think the thing is, let's say that the 70% who likes Trump reduces to 50 or even 40%. Immediately losing that percentage of the party who are not going to align with you now because you didn't stand with Trump and a Josh Hawley type that goes after, because you could get those same people those people that would be in favor of Larry here if you just said Trump shouldn't have incited and didn't go as far to say he should be removed. I don't think that's just going to play well.
I think we're going to be beyond the Trump stuff, though, and not beyond the Trump stuff in terms of Trump not being a figure. He will obviously be a figure, and he's going to play a role either directly or indirectly in the next primary. But you can appeal to Trump's base with issues, even if you went against Trump, in my opinion. Like, you can be, if Larry Hogan, and you're a foreign policy guy, if Larry Hogan comes out as, I'm Larry Hogan, Maryland governor, purple wave guy, but I'm super tough on China, right? Or I'm going to build a double wall. Like, that's something where he has 4 years to build that personality out before he actually has to road test it.
The thing that gets me too is no one cares about foreign policy unless it's China anymore. This is something that's weird. Like, voters do not care about foreign policy unless you have to talk about China at this point.
Well, Democrats care about like standing on the world stage.
Maybe I do think they generally care about it, but it's not a top issue for voters. I think it would have to be something more than just the China thing.
I don't think it's a top issue.
It's not. It's never been a top issue for voters really, unless you're in a war. So unless like Joe Biden we start a war over Taiwan in the next 4 years, I don't think it's going to be enough. There'd have to be something enough.
Dylan, you say that loud enough, and you're going to give Blinken a stiffy. So please keep that to yourself.
Okay, but I think he'd have to sell it on something. I don't know. I do think he has a path.
The reason why China works is because you can tie China back to the economy. Mm-hmm. Why is my factory closed? China. Mm-hmm. Like, that's why China matters. Like, and then COVID. Now COVID, the China lied, people died stuff.
I understand that, but I think it would have to be something more domestic. I think after the last 4 years of we've really, most of the issues that people are voting on are domestic issues. It's healthcare. A lot of people consider COVID like a domestic issue and the management of it. It's not, but people consider it and look at it in that fashion. When you look at the economy, people don't really. I don't think a lot of people really see the lines between international trade and international recessions and the ability for us to recover, sadly. So, and definitely, most certainly not the Republican Party base, I don't think, really is making those connections to the same amount as maybe the Democratic Party might be, since, like, they were not too bothered when Trump, like, trashed our relationships with foreign leaders. And I think when I look at Larry Hogan, I think he's a good a Republican when it comes to selling himself in a blue state. I just don't know if he has the ability to sell himself to the Republican base where he's going to say, I am a Republican. I stand with your Republican values. And then they're going to say, what's your stance on abortion? He's going to fucking start sweating.
I actually agree with you. I think it's easier for a red state governor to moderate than it is a blue state governor to become more conservative. Like that especially because you're going to have to become redder, not in the face like Larry Hogan obviously is already very good at, but in terms of his policy, before he goes into a primary where it's going to be quien es muy macho for conservative policies where everyone's going to try to out-conservative each other.
I'm scared that he's going to run for Senate. That's what I'm scared of. I don't want him to be a senator. I want him to try to run for one of these offices and lose and be done forever and fall into the void of politics.
When is the next seat's coming up in the Senate?
I know there's gonna possibly be a special election if I never know what to say his name, but there's a congressman here that might have to leave to be in the Biden administration, but the Senate, I think it possibly 2 years. I think it is 2 years.
Is he term limited, Hogan?
Yes, and in 2 years I believe his term is over.
Okay, so 2022,
2022, I believe. Possibly 23. It's one of the two.
Well, I mean that's probably part of the reason why people think that he's going to run for president, because that would be the perfect time to strike up the band on your presidential campaign.
True. Honestly, I kind of hope he runs for president instead of senator, because I think
he is. You know, all the buzz is that he's going to.
If he does, I think the odds of him losing are higher. And then he's no longer governor, and then running for Senate might be more difficult because he invested all this time in the presidential race. But then again, he could use that thing to gain more national kind of note while running for the Republican nomination. But the problem is, if he's doing that, if he let's say he loses, right, and he run for the Republican nomination, the only way he can win the Republican nomination is if he goes to the right when he goes in there. There's no way he's going to win with his current policies in Demi. I mean, he won't even answer if he voted for Trump. If he can't even answer if he voted for the Republican candidate, he's got to move to the right. And if he does that and then runs for Senate in Maryland, Democratic in a blue state, the blue state voters are going to look at him and be like, we just saw what the fuck you did. We saw what you said about abortion. We saw what you said about you did actually vote for Trump. We're not forgiving on that. We were told you were the purple. You were talked about a purple wave, but that's not a purple wave. That's just Republican. So
do you think he would? I kind of feel like he would run better as a Democrat.
Honestly, the thing is, there's certain positions he holds that I just don't think would fly well. Mandatory minimums is something that I don't think would fly well. And the Democratic Party, for example.
But all right,
for the Democratic nomination for president,
riddle me this: what's more likely, a Democrat winning that's for mandatory minimums, or a Republican winning that's squishy on abortion?
Let me put it this way. He said a very interesting thing about the black male that was killed, that died in the back of a cop van who was tied up improperly. He said a very interesting thing. Right? He said a pretty grim thing about them. That basically some things about gangs, and I just don't think it would I think it would be a Tulsi Gabbard Kamala moment almost. But it would be game ending, the type of shit they could say, because it's not even.
I don't think he would. I mean, this is obviously fantasy world. Like, yeah. I don't think.
I know. I'm just like, I'm trying to think of the hypotheticals, because there's just so much that I think he has sold himself so well here that I think an outside perspective, looking in and looking at the things he's said and throwing that on a national stage, he's not going to be able to. He hasn't had the 4 to 5 to 6 years to kind of convince Marylanders that he's your guy. So if he says something to get your guy, and somebody just says, "Remember what you said about that about BLM? Remember what you said about But abortion, remember what you said about that? Then he's going to start sweating, and I think he'd crash the Democratic Party.
I am just really fascinated with where the political fault lines are, because they seem the most fluid that they've ever been in my lifetime. Like that, there's more of a world in which different kinds of candidates will be able to run not only in the primaries, but like there's a lot of spaghetti getting thrown at the wall right now. And part of it was because, Trump was sort of a meta breaker in a lot of ways, at least on the Republican side.
Mm-hmm.
And Bernie was almost, Bernie came very, very close twice to really shattering what the meta on the Democratic side was.
Yeah, I just don't think that Larry Hogan falls into either of these meta breaking moves.
Oh, no. I'm kind of moving. I'm moving on from Larry
got
Hogan.
it. Okay.
I'm saying just like
okay.
from a meta.
Should I move on with the story? I was on the
no. Please go. Sorry, I thought you were done.
So I finished my time at the Gravel campaign, right? And so now what I had on my record is that I've worked in Maryland General Assembly. I worked on the Gravel campaign, and during my ending time of the Gravel campaign, I also started to intern for a workers union, 1199 SEIU, which is a healthcare workers union in DC. I started doing some later after the campaign was over. I started doing work for a political PAC, 21st Century Democrats. I did what's it called? Basically data management. I'm a political consultant for them still currently.
Nice.
And I started doing stuff for the 21st district delegation in my area and helping them campaign and do stuff like that. And then I managed a mayoral campaign.
Oh, cool.
I managed a mayoral campaign to victory with 78% of the vote for us in a three-way race in my city.
Awesome. Where and that was local to you in Maryland?
Yep, the city of College Park, which is my city, and it's a college town. It's where the University of Maryland is.
Okay.
Yep. So I did that. After that, I worked as a foreign policy advisor for Michaela Wilkes. Basically, I went up to them saying like, "Hey, I see you guys are challenging Steny Hoyer. I'd love to join on the campaign. What can I do?" And I told them all the stuff I did, and they saw the Gravel work, my time in University of Maryland studying international relations, stuff at Model UN, all that, and they were like, "Want to be a foreign policy advisor?" And the role kind of fell in my lap. It was like foreign policy advisor. I didn't really expect to get this role, but it was what was given to me, and I did my best to fill that role to the best of my ability. And getting that role led to me getting another role advising State Senator Jill Carter when she was running to replace Elijah Cummings' seat. And that was where my contact with Richard Elliott came back into use, because he recruited me to be your foreign policy advisor. And so that's the majority of the bulk of my political work so far in the last 2 years.
I mean, that's a lot of stuff.
In 2 years, yeah.
You are a busy man, Dylan. And again, how old are you?
I am 19. Oh, and I was recently placed on my local city board for environmental issues.
Jesus Christ. Look, that is an ambitious resume for a man of your age. That's a lot of shit. So what is the goal? Do you want to run yourself, or do you want to continue to be in the campaign infrastructure?
I do want to run. I think me getting on the city board was like the first kind of big stage of that, of like transferring from just being on campaigns to running myself. I have a project I'm working on I can't really talk about that. I'll just say that might interest people who want me to run for office. I've been in a lot of conversations. I tried to run before, actually, when I was 18. I tried to run for office, and I was prevented from running. And the reason why is they passed a law saying that 18-year-olds can run for office. But there's a separate law, and they didn't think this through, where you need to be registered to vote for 1 year before you run for office, right? To confirm that you live in that community. So that means I would have had to register when I was 17 years old to vote, when I couldn't even vote.
Which you can't do, yeah.
I can't. So I didn't. I registered when I turned 18, so that stopped me from running. So for the last 2 years, I've been basically trying to change the city charter to allow it so 18-year-olds who register to vote when they're 18 can use other forms of documentation to prove they live in the city bounds. It's got unanimous support from the city council. They're in the final stages of putting that through. So we're going to change the city charter soon.
If and when you run in the future,
yep.
How much will streaming be a part of it? And are you worried that the stream drama of it all will not be an asset but a liability?
So I think after seeing AOC and like that one Canadian politician sing and Raphael Warnock get on Twitch and seeing how Bernie and Trump and, well, not Trump anymore, but others have used Twitch and the platform, I think it is a useful asset to have a large scale of people who supports me and my political ambitions online and might be willing to donate to a campaign if I started one, as long as they're Americans who might be willing to support me in that and that capacity, who might be willing to help me do maybe some online stuff. Many people who help do media and graphics and stuff like that, and be able to spread the message about my campaign. I think it is useful, and it's also cool to have a somewhat stable source of income, which this has provided during all of this. I also enjoy it a lot, but I do understand that with how Twitch works, I'm very scared of drama. That's why I like to avoid it, because of course this stuff can come and bite me in the ass.
Yeah,
it's why I wanted to deal with today's stuff as quickly as physically possible, because I just don't want to deal with it really, and I just wanted to kind of like put it behind me. It's the same, like I've only had like been involved in really 2 major dramas, and today's kind of one of them, but it's probably just a one-day thing anyway, so it'll probably just fade away. But I am worried, and I try my best to be super careful. It's why, like, when people are like, "So Dylan, what do you think about the morality of incest?" I say, ban. It's like done. I'm not even gonna touch that shit.
What can I ask you? What is with people talking about incest? About the morality of incest?
So,
why do people seem so excited to run into that butcher shop?
So I think people like to be provocative, number one, and I think number two that they use it as a measure to kind of test people's moral consistency by asking them about the morality of it. Because it
seems like the dumbest shit I have ever heard in my life.
I don't even want to engage with it whatsoever. I'm just gonna leave it there.
It's one of these things that I just kind of catch here and there on Twitch, and I'm like, who the fuck?
It's like they use it as it's used
seriously answering it. And I'm
it's
like,
used,
what are you
it's used as a
about?
it's used as a thinking test or a thinking exercise, kind of.
A big brain contest. Everyone's gonna
contest.
try to measure the circumference.
It's not
brain.
really. I don't consider it an important conversation. I don't engage with it, and plus, it's just a PR disaster in the making. There's no reason for me to engage with it whatsoever.
Yeah, no, it's just one of the most insane things that I've seen. But you know, when you talk about campaigning, part of it is liability, right?
Yep.
Part of it is exposure.
Yep.
And controlling your exposure. Even candidates that are very forward in our media, and I do think that the game has changed, where more is more in terms of candidates showing themselves to their public, and you've seen that with Trump and AOC and others. But at the same time, any one little thing can still bite you in the ass going forward. So if you ran, would you keep your regular streaming schedule?
I would try that's something I've thought about. I would try to keep it. I stream from 6 to midnight, so that's about 6 hours, right?
Yeah.
That's my new general streaming schedule, 5 days a week. And the idea is that I would basically do most of my door knocking before then anyway, from like 3 to 6 if I was campaigning for a local office. But of course, if I'm doing a major campaign, I'd have to change the type of stuff I stream. I have to change when I stream. Obviously, if I'm doing a large project, I would have to take weeks off, take days off. For instance, I have city board meetings sometimes on Mondays, and so on certain Mondays, I just tweet out, "Hey, no stream today. City board meeting. Sorry, guys."
Yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day, I care much more about doing IRL politics than the stream stuff. I see this as something that supplements that.
Well, obviously, you're very, very dialed into it, considering how much you've already gotten out there and been a part of multiple campaigns. And I can't imagine that somebody that is as ambitious as you will stop doing that. So It makes a whole lot of sense that is something that you're going to put the priority on, as opposed to entertaining all these fine folks here on twitch.tv.
Yeah, I mean, I enjoy doing this. This, as right now, is my primary source of employment at the moment, and I would like to continue to do this for a very, very, very long time. If I had my way, I would campaign and do politics and do this at night, and that would be my basic schedule, with my breaks being on the weekends to the best of my capacity. But I'm doing the thing is, I've been doing all this and streaming And all those things were in a 2-year period, so many of them overlapped. At certain points, I had like 7 different like priorities and jobs, basically. And on top of, I'm going to school full time.
Yeah, dude, that is very, very admirable. I wonder if I were your age, you know, what I would do, because at that point, you know, when I was just getting into school, I was into the media thing. I was doing a newspaper job, so I was reporting and writing every day. It was certainly a lot of time, but I wonder if streaming would have been the answer, because I certainly think part of it, at least that schedule, Jesus, like the 6 to midnight stuff is a young man's game. I'll tell you that.
Oh God, it most certainly a young person's game, and my sleep schedule is fucked up to all hell. It is the worst thing on the planet, honestly. But I mean, I'm young. I can work now. I'll rest when I'm dead.
Yeah, or at least past 25. Well, dude, thanks for chatting. Unless there's anything that you want to bring up, I feel like I've been kind of driving questions about you the entire time.
Okay, let me ask you a question then.
Sure, yeah.
How do you eat pizza?
How do I eat pizza?
Yeah, how do you eat it? How do you consume pizza?
Well, I'm not a sociopath, so I don't eat it with like a knife and a fork or anything like that. I guess.
Do you hold it with your hand and eat it like forward? Like, how do you eat it?
Yeah, like, you know, if it's a floppy ass slice, you give it a little fold in the middle there. But otherwise, just wait, is there a controversy about this? About
basically, I was canceled because I eat pizza crust first.
You eat pizza crust first.
Yes.
I mean, I guess I don't think that you're necessarily a monster for that. I would just have some logistical questions. Where are you holding the pizza? Are you holding it?
I hold it backwards, but I hold it like it's like a dinner plate, like you're a server holding a dinner plate and putting it. And that's how I hold it around, and then I eat the crust from one side to the other, and then eat it that way, or turn it back around and eat it that way. And the logic behind mine is the crust, in my opinion, is the worst part of the pizza. So I'd rather have the good taste of the pizza part in my mouth the longer after I finish eating.
All right, somebody might have to try and find this. But in my mind, I think there might have been a commercial for Domino's or Pizza Hut. Pizza Hut is my thought, where Donald Trump advised people to eat
people have been harassing me with that footage.
Okay, good. So wow, all right, so awesome. I fucking pulled that. Yeah, Pizza Hut stuffed crust, and it was Trump, right? Yep. It was Trump that was talking about eating it.
That is my position. I am a Republican on eating crust first. That's the one thing I agree with Trump on.
That's it. That's
where I can coalition build with him.
So now wait a minute. All right, but so you say it's the worst part of the pizza. Why not just rip it off and chuck the crust? Because I've known a lot of people that have
because
done that.
It's still good. It's just the worst part of the good thing. It's like if I have an amazing cake, but one part of it you like less than the other part, then I eat that first so I can have the rest of the cake, which is better.
So wait a minute. On a cupcake, you're eating all the breading first and then getting to the frosting?
Not necessarily. It's like for instance, like let's say I eat a cake, I'll cut out the part of the cake that doesn't have all the cool icing first. I'll eat that and then I'll eat the icing. So, for instance, I'll eat my vegetables before I eat my meat. Because I love meat.
I'm with you on that. I got made fun of for most of my childhood because I ate everything in portions. Like I would finish all of my potatoes, then I would finish my vegetables, then I would eat the meat. Like or in whatever. I don't know if I necessarily had a like vegetables then meat, but I certainly would I would go 1 as opposed to mixing it up.
I just believe in getting the worst part of any dish out of the way first before you get to the good stuff, right? I want something to look forward to.
Well, I certainly am with you there in the idea that you want to have that perfect bite, that last bite being the big finale is important.
And I don't want it to be crust. Who wants the last bite to be crust?
I guess I would go against that then. I would have the crust. But then again, I'm also throwing away.
Wait, are you telling me that right now you're considering eating pizza crust first? I'm on the point of conversion?
No. No. I am an ancient man, Dylan, and I am very, very fossilized in my ways. So, but then again,
this is like running like a really old person through gay marriage, and they agree with you on the points, but they're just like, no, I can't accept these new liberal ways.
Yeah, I'm a boomer here, Dylan. So I am certainly not going to be changing the way I eat pizza.
You're gonna be going into like shops and like restaurants going forward. You see people eating pizza crust first, and you're like, times have changed, and I mean I
will, yeah. It's basically you're the one who's first telling me about fucking Elvis on the Ed Sullivan show. Like now, all of a sudden, it's all going to be rock and roll. All the boomers are going to be on TikTok eating fucking pizza backwards.
Yeah, I'm starting it. It's gonna be called Burnsing or something.
Burnsing. Oh yeah, no. I was just out Burnsing, Dad. I swear.
There will be no Burnsing in this household.
I would say I throw away a lot of crust though. I'll tear off the crust and chuck it unless there's a dipping sauce. That I guess is another thing. If there's dipping sauce, then I'm enjoying the fact that there's a crust for the dipping sauce.
If it's stuffed, then I don't eat the crust last. I'll put it that because then the stuffed crust is the best part of the pizza.
Yeah. Is there any other food you eat all fucked up, or is it just the pizza?
I like pineapple on pizza. Is that a thing you would throw?
I'm not a big food politics guy, to be totally honest with you. Like my wife's a vegan, so I'm fairly tired. Like I eat whatever I want, but my wife's a vegan, so it's like just watching her through osmosis, having everybody get all up in her shit about like, bacon's great. It's like, all right, we all eat food.
Bacon. I'm gonna be honest. Like, bacon's bacon's overhyped, extremely overhyped. Bacon's not nearly as good as like the attention it gets. They're only reason it's popular is because the old fucking food companies were like, man, how can we sell one of the most unhealthy parts of the pig and make it actually make money off of it? And they fucking did this large marketing campaign to make bacon look good, and now people eat bacon, even though it's terrible for you. It's not really great.
No, bacon is popular because it's all salt and fat. Salt and fat.
Well, yeah, but then there was also this campaign to make it a breakfast food. Why the fuck is bacon a breakfast food? It makes zero sense. It's super, super unhealthy for you. It's like a Pop-Tart, like when it comes to unhealthiness.
Yeah, but it still isn't the same flavor profile as like ham or sausage. I always presume that was the reason why.
Well, yeah, the thing is, yeah, but ham and sausage, you can make an argument of the protein and the stuff you're getting out of it. What good shit do you get out of bacon? What stuff is it? Like, I need food to start today, a healthy meal. Let me just eat bacon grease and salt and fat. What?
Well, no one's saying that bacon is a part of a healthy breakfast.
It's part of a shit breakfast.
Of a good tasting breakfast.
For sheep. That's what it's for. It's for sheep and weak-willed people who can't deal.
Wait a minute, hold on. You're saying you can't fuck with bacon? That you're totally out on bacon?
I'm out. I'm on bacon onto a point of maybe little bits of it being sprinkled on other foods. That I'm possibly in a sandwich, but that's midday. That's lunch. That's not breakfast, and it certainly isn't a part of my breakfast.
Bacon. This is the most controversial thing. If you ever run for office,
breakfast bacon is not. If it's in front of me, I will eat it because I want to eat food. But I will not like go out of my way to say we need bacon for breakfast. It's not something I think it should be part of breakfast. I am somebody who eats oranges for breakfast. Okay.
I mean, look, I'm not a bacon man myself. Like I don't know the last time that I cooked bacon for myself at all. I might get it if I'm getting breakfast somewhere because it's like the standard thing to get. But I'm with you there. Like I'm not somebody that needs to cook it every day.
Look,
that being said, if I'm eating bacon 100% of the time, unless I'm getting a very specific meal for a dinner or a lunch, although maybe I'll fuck with a BLT here again. It's at breakfast.
I'm not saying that you're evil if you eat bacon for breakfast. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is you might as well just be kicking a puppy. That's all I'm saying.
Okay. I can respect your position that you feel that this is equal to animal abuse. But I would say that
look, basically you're a Proud Boy, basically.
You are on the wrong side of history. And there is a strong bipartisan coalition that is here to slap down the kind of slander that you are putting out and poisoning the minds of so many hundreds, if not thousands on VOD about bacon. That's all I'm saying.
Look, we're gonna get tiki torches and put oranges on the top of them. Okay, we're not gonna let this bacon dominance go on. Okay.
I mean, look, oranges are very high in sugar. If you're eating too much of the fruit, that's not exactly healthy.
Not too much. You just have one.
Like a full orange or an orange slice.
I think a full orange could do well if you have a healthy lifestyle. If you're a shut-in that slouches over the keyboard all day, maybe not. But if you have a healthy, active lifestyle, most certainly.
Yeah.
But that's all foods. If you work out enough, you can basically eat anything.
Oh, totally. Yeah. No, I'm in like the best shape of my life, and I've been drinking probably more than I ever have, mostly because I just walk. There's nothing open out here in California, so I just get beers and I just walk around the neighborhood. As it turns out, calories don't count. Beer calories don't count if you're walking while you do it.
I remember when I was boxing, I had a really bad idea on how calories were supposed to work. I just thought, well, that number sounds big, so I shouldn't go over that one, right? So for the first 3 months of my boxing thing, I was working out 3 to 4 hours a day and getting 1,000 calories. It was not great.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, it was bad. I didn't know what the fuck I was doing.
Yeah, no, you're gonna die. That's a way to die.
Yeah, it really wasn't. Thankfully, I doubled it to like 2,000 as being my usual limit, which is still low, but I was at like 220 pounds. I needed to get to like 160.
Yeah. When you look at people that are really like putting on muscle, like when you're in that like John Cena level, like they are literally just living to eat. You are just eating an insane amount and working out an insane amount.
I was trying to lose weight. That was the thing. I was losing weight.
If you're eating 1,000 calories and then fucking working out 3 hours, you're gonna lose weight.
Yeah, I lost like 60 pounds in like 6 months. Or was it 80? Yeah. It was 60 or 80, one of the two.
Jesus, Herbert Christ. Well, Dylan, I'm gonna wrap things up here on my stream, but this was really rad. We should do it again sometime.
Yeah, I like chatting with you. Maybe next time you can give me your life story, and we'll learn more about you.
Yeah, no, we'll chat. But I always like talking with people that are actually kind of like in the game of politics, because I have my media perspective, but always people that are inside politics sometimes can sneer at that, and I always love chatting.
Mm-hmm. I love chatting with you as well.
Well, there we go. Hey, everybody, Dylan Burns TV, go and follow him and go watch his Hippy Dippy Roundtable on Fridays. But thanks so much, man. I'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, for anybody who doesn't know, this is Charlie Kirk I'm currently talking to. You can check him out at Turning Point USA.
You son of a bitch. All right, buddy.
Justin Robert Young. Check him out on Twitch and Twitter. See you later, man.
Bye.